Raised in a post-single mother household, I was always hungry. My mom, who juggled several part-time jobs from early in the morning till late at night, would leave meals for me, but the portion was never enough for a growing sixth grader like me. However, I never complained, no matter how poor or tough it got. All I could do for my mom, who always smiled and stayed cheerful, was to endure. "We're in this together" was Mom's favorite phrase. Hunger was hard every day, but I dreamed of becoming rich one day and letting Mom eat to her heart's content. With this in mind, the only thing I relentlessly worked on was my studies. My daily routine included going to the library for self-study after school. This was also a way to save on heating and air conditioning. I was delighted that modern libraries had water dispensers installed. One day, while searching for books in the library as usual, a wonderful smell wafted in from somewhere. Looking around, I noticed the pleasant smell coming from a high school girl standing next to me. As soon as I took a big whiff, my stomach growled loudly. It was a noise that echoed in the quiet library. Feeling embarrassed, I looked down, but I could sense the girl looking at me.
"Are you, by any chance, hungry?"
she asked in a low voice, and I couldn't respond.
"Come with me."
With that, she grabbed my hand and led me outside. We sat on a bench, and she took something wrapped in aluminum foil from her bag. The smell was coming from that.
"You can eat this if you want."
What she handed to me looked like a piece of pound cake. The delicious smell was irresistible, and I put a piece in my mouth without a second thought. Yum! The sweet taste of butter spread in my mouth. Before I knew it, I had sweets in both hands, and they were all gone in a blink of an eye. I'm sorry." I felt suddenly embarrassed after I finished eating and apologized. However, my mouth and stomach were filled with a happiness I had never felt before. It was so delicious. It's the first time I've ever tasted anything so good. When I said this honestly, the girl seemed like she was about to cry.
"Thank you."
I didn't understand why she was thanking me. I was the one who received the sweets. I thought I should be the one thanking her.
"I'm sorry, you must be confused, but I'm so happy."
She quickly wiped away her tears and gave me a big smile.
"I'm attending a culinary school specializing in pastries. My dream is to become a pastry chef. I'm working part-time at a cake shop while learning to bake, but things aren't going well."
As she said this, the girl looked at me and smiled.
"Oh, I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Emily Smith, an 18-year-old vocational school student. I often come to this library to look for books about sweets. And you?"
"I'm John Miller, a sixth grader." When I answered, Emily extended her hand to me.
"John, thank you for saying my pastries are delicious."
I gently returned her handshake. "See, I come from a post-single mother household, and I'm always hungry. Thank you for the meal."
"I don't have a mother. She died shortly after giving birth to me, so it's just me and my dad."
As we shook hands, for some reason, Emily said this happily.
"We seem to be in similar circumstances, don't we? Would you like to be friends?"
she asked, taking me by surprise. A grown woman like her wanting to be friends with someone like me, really?
"Would you like to keep trying the desserts I make?"
Emily said with a broad smile. I thought it was like a dream. Was she really offering to let me eat such delicious treats for free? "Are you sure it's okay?"
"Of course. Nice to meet you."
And so we started to meet every day at the library. Emily brought homemade treats with her every day. Thanks to her, I no longer had to deal with the discomfort of hunger. Sometimes the desserts weren't that great, but when I told Emily honestly, she seemed pleased and asked me passionately what could be improved. As we spent time together like this, we shared many stories. Emily's father is a corporate employee in a big company, and at home, she is always alone. She doesn't have any siblings. In those respects, she and I were just alike, but her family seems to be wealthy beyond comparison with mine. However, the loneliness we both held seemed similar. One day, as usual, I was studying at the library, but there was a problem I didn't understand and Emily was helping me with it. I was completely engrossed in it, and before I knew it, it was pitch dark outside. The closing music was playing in the library.
"Oh dear, it's already this late. I'll walk you home, John."
Looking at her wristwatch, Emily hastily stood up. I'm fine. I can go home alone.
That's not okay. What if something happens to you on your own at this hour?
Hearing that, I felt a bit miffed. I'm already 12, you know, and a boy at that, I muttered in my heart, but silently stood up as well. When we got home, my mom, who was supposed to be at work, was waiting, making curry. She forcefully invited Emily into our shabby house and told her to eat dinner.
I always hear about you from John. The desserts you give him have saved his life. I've always wanted to thank you.
Embarrassed to have our tattered house seen, I looked down. My mom said, "What are you acting so good for? You're unusually quiet," and laughed. "Shut up, don't say unnecessary things." In response, my mom thumped my head. Emily was giggling.
Today's our once a month special treat. My pride and joy, homemade curry. Please eat a lot.
Saying so, she put a steaming plate of curry rice in front of Emily. What kind of special treat is this? It's just the usual meatless curry made from leftovers in the fridge. I couldn't help but complain. I wondered what Emily would think of this being called a treat.
Quiet. It contains the best ingredient, a mother's love.
I'd prefer meat to a mother's love. At that, Emily couldn't help but burst out laughing.
I'm sorry. This is my first time having such a fun dinner. Let's eat.
She joins her hands in prayer and begins to eat.
This is delicious.
She says with surprise and starts to eat rapidly with gusto.
Is this tofu? It tastes like meat and it's so tasty.
That's what Emily said as she stared closely at the tofu cut into cube shapes. My mom, looking pleased, said, "Right, you can have as much as you want," and picked up her own spoon. That day, the three of us had seconds of curry and chatted a lot. Emily laughed aloud time and again, looking genuinely happy. The curry that day tasted many times better than usual. Days like these continued, and as I entered junior high, my appetite grew even bigger, and apart from candy, Emily occasionally made sandwiches and lunchboxes for me. They were just as tasty as the candy, and I ate every bit of pieces. After graduating from school, Emily found a job and decided to go to a well-known restaurant in New York. Emily, who had become great friends with my mom, bade us farewell with tears in her eyes and left for New York. 20 years flew by, and I was now a 33-year-old working adult. With my hard studies, I attended a prestigious private college prep high school in my hometown as a special admission student, and received a scholarship to one of the top universities in the country. After graduating, I got a job at a well-known corporation and am now able to ease the burden on my mom. I'm not married yet, but work is going well and I'm leading a fulfilling life every day. I occasionally think of Emily, but we haven't met in 20 years. I'm sure she's become a full-fledged pastry chef, making delicious sweets. One day, I was visiting a client's company. After about 2 hours of meetings, I was standing in the elevator lobby when a cleaning lady came out of the emergency exit and almost bumped into me.
I'm sorry.
She backed off in surprise and quickly bowed her head. She was holding a bucket and mop in her hands. "No, I'm sorry for zoning out," I said as I looked at her. Our eyes met. In that moment, I was so shocked that I dropped my bag. Could it be Emily?
John.
We stared at each other as if to bore holes into our faces. Emily had a happy yet shy look on her face, but her face was so thin that I couldn't help but look away. Her body, wrapped in the uniform of a cleaning lady, was also thin as a rail.
I can't believe we're meeting here. You've really grown up.
She murmured, covering her mouth with her hand. We went outside and sat on a bench in a small park nearby.
It's been 20 years. Have you been well?
When she asked that, I nodded. "Emily, why are you here? What about your job as a pastry chef?" Upon hearing this, Emily twisted her face as if in pain.
I couldn't get along with the people at work. I tried in my own way. Maybe I thought too much and lost my sense of taste due to mental stress. I can hardly taste anything I eat. I can't be a pastry chef like that, can I? I'm now back home and working part-time as a cleaner while going to the doctor. I wanted a job where I wouldn't have to meet many people.
As she said this in a barely audible voice, Emily bowed her head as if in pain. Seeing her too thin shoulders shaking, I felt a heart-wrenching pain. Long ago, Emily was always there to help me, and now she was trembling in such a pitiful state. I want to help Emily. I want to repay her kindness, now more than ever. With these thoughts, I instinctively held Emily's hand. I looked at Emily, who had raised her head in surprise, and said, "From today, please have dinner with me every day. Please say yes." As if I were praying in my heart, I saw Emily nodding her head slightly. From that day forward, I would meet Emily after work every day and go out for dinner. I had learned various things from a friend who is a doctor about the symptoms caused by mental stress, so I made sure to take it easy and to eat in a relaxed environment as much as possible. But no matter how stylish the restaurant or how well known the chef, at first she hardly ate anything.
I'm sorry, John.
Emily always apologized with a guilty look, to which I would reply, "Please don't worry about it. Just being able to talk with you like this makes me happy." Seeing Emily smile with relief and reach for the food was a sight for sore eyes. She chewed slowly, as if trying to taste every bit of the food. As we continued to have dinner together, I noticed that she was slowly beginning to eat more, repeating in my heart not to rush things. I went ahead and ate at my own pace, not paying any attention to Emily. I thought that would ease her worries. One day, my mom said, "Bring Emily home with you." She had been worried about Emily ever since I told her about Emily's illness on the day we reunited. To our house. Why?
I'll cook her a homemade meal.
When I responded to my mom's smiling face, saying, "Even professional chef's dishes she can barely eat, let alone what you make," she pulled my ear hard. Ouch, what was that for?
You really don't understand anything, do you? What Emily needs now is not just delicious food. Just leave it to me.
Reluctantly, I promised to bring Emily home the following Sunday. When Emily arrived at our house, she looked around the room with amazement.
Wow, such a nice house. John, you've really made something of yourself, haven't you?
I used to like our old ramshackle house, you know.
With that, Mom served tea to Emily.
I feel embarrassed for causing trouble for my father.
Nonsense. If it wasn't for Emily's cookies, John wouldn't have grown up the way he did. We can't thank you enough.
When my mom said that, Emily shook her head as if troubled.
My cookies didn't bring happiness to anyone.
Her voice, tinged with sadness, pierced my heart, but my mom simply smiled and said nothing.
Come on, eat. It's special curry.
She placed the pot on the table, and when she lifted the lid, the aroma of spices filled the room. She poured the curry over a small portion of freshly cooked rice and placed it in front of Emily.
John, you eat too. Let's dig in.
Without showing any concern for Emily, my mom started eating her curry. I wondered what she was thinking, but picked up my spoon in silence. Emily also picked up her spoon after saying, "Let's dig in." "Mom, there's no meat in this curry." I blurted out without thinking, not that we were so poor that we couldn't afford meat for our curry.
Didn't I tell you? It's special.
She retorted, "So it's just leftover curry, and Emily came all this way."
Hush, just eat it.
As we exchanged words, I heard Emily murmur,
It's tofu. There was tofu in the curry you gave me before, wasn't there? I remember it was very delicious."
Saying this, Emily took a bite. She swallowed slowly, and then, to my surprise, she murmured, "Delicious." She kept bringing her spoon to her mouth, continuing to eat. In Emily's eyes, large tears welled up.
I don't have a mother. I don't know what home cooking tastes like, but I've always remembered this curry. I wanted to eat it again.
While eating with a joyful expression, Emily kept shedding quiet tears. My mom gently stroked Emily's hair. "Take your time eating. There's no rush," she said, continuing to caress her hair.
It's all right. You can live life at your own pace. Your life is just beginning, Emily. It's okay to move forward slowly and steadily.
At that, Emily began to cry out, as if a dam had burst. My mom quietly kept stroking her hair. She didn't stop until Emily's sobbing turned into small hiccups. From that day on, Emily began to increase her food intake. Once a week, she came to our house to eat Mom's home-cooked meals. She seemed to look a bit fuller in the face, to my eyes at least. In the end, when I realized that it was Mom who helped Emily, not me, it stung a bit. But seeing Emily regain her spirit day by day brought me joy. I, leveraging various connections, was looking for a shop where Emily could return to her work as a pastry chef. I believe in the hope that someday I'll be able to taste Emily's delicious pastries again, just like in my dreams.